And this is Jason Moser. I'm working on my COM 263-052 Elements of Intercultural Communication. I'm working on my week 2 American Cultural Reaction video that's due on October 9th of 2022 or 2022. So when I first take a look at this, I have to confess that I felt very dumb and confused after my initial review of the Nostarima culture. I was really struggling with this. I had read it a couple times, was really struggling with the fact that I'm missing something here. So I sat down and I Googled it about the Nostarima culture. And when I did so, I found out that this was actually a play on words that came back from studying or a paper written in the 1950s about American culture, and they just simply spelled America backwards. And that when I went back and read it, I kind of had this light bulb moment of what actually should have been what I was focusing on. So I'm going to speak about this in a couple different lights. I'm going to speak about it in my first initial assessment, reading through it, not understanding what it was, and then my second assessment of what it was. I have to admit that initially my reaction to the article was a bit of repulsion. I found it odd that a culture that would be so fascinated by the human body and the mouth would expose it to itself to such horrific experiences, such as digging into open decayed teeth and exposed nerves and packing of poultices and different elements into the open decay. I found it interesting that there was a shrine in each house that each family would worship at and different things that they would do. I found it interesting at the moment that the only persons that were allowed to understand the magic and what could happen and the benefits were the shaman and the medicine, and to the point that the lay persons did not understand what the benefits of this was or what it actually did for them. However, they were so fearful to get rid of old magic that they would keep the magic in place, hopeful that it may be beneficial to them yet again. I found it very interesting that sexual copulation was a scheduled event and pregnancy was strived to be avoided, to the point that they would use ritualistic events around lunar cycles, or then also through the use of outside devices to try to keep this pregnancy from happening, and that they viewed the human body as detestable. I have to admit that after going back and reading it the second time and understanding what the article actually was discussing, I had to laugh to myself out loud a few times. What I had viewed as detestable the first time through looking at it and reading it and trying to understand it, the second time when looking at it through what normal American culture would be, I thought was much more normal. I looked at it and I thought, well, yeah, that would be normal that somebody would go to see a dentist, or that would be normal that someone would use contraceptive to keep from becoming pregnant, or the fact that people would use the bathroom in private. And so it was interesting to me that when you look at the culture through an anthropological study or through an anthropological viewpoint, that it seems so strange and uncertain and unwelcoming, but yet when you look at it through what our normal American eyes would be, that it seemed very normal. One of the things that I thought was very interesting is when I went back and I looked at it the second time or the third time, and I actually realized that when it was talking about Washington was a great leader, using Washington's name spelt backwards, and the fact that he conducted war by crossing the Potomac, and the fact that he cut down the cherry tree, which was the form of being honest, that those things, as much as they were taught to me as a child in American culture, seemed very normal and acceptable, but when you looked at it through that other viewpoint, they seem very different. The ritual that I'm going to discuss and talk about in American culture that was not discussed here is the practice of Christmas in America. If you were an outsider looking at this viewpoint, you would think it was very odd that there was different meanings and beliefs that are brought together, seeming very odd. Parents tell their children there's a magical man that can fly through the sky and visit every family across the world in one night. This magic man, known as Santa Claus, can not only fly in a sled powered by deer, but he also has the magical ability to know whether each boy and girl around the world has been good or bad, which will help him determine if he needs to pull from his magical bag of toys, toys that are good or bad for the children, to be deposited in their home based off their behavior over the last year, which, if we look at that in the totality of the circumstances, would just seem like a incredible belief. This belief of the magical man that would come and visit their home, and then transforms as children grow into young adults and adults, and a lot of times turns into a manifestation or a belief in a Savior known as Christ. The Savior was born to a woman who had never had sexual intercourse with any person, and had been magically blessed to be the mother of the Savior of all man. The Savior of all man would be the Son of God. However, this God is not one that we can see or that we can have an interaction with. However, he is one that provides a path to redemption, and provides this path to redemption through a belief in his Son, who was born through this virgin mother, as a spiritual son of man, as the redemption available to man. The redemption of the Savior is so much so that on the eve of Christmas, when parents are telling their children to go to sleep so that in magic Santa Claus can visit their home and deposit toys under this symbolic evergreen tree, the family sat at home the previous month and has taken the painstaking time to decorate and to do different decorations to make it viewed as special and important in the family. And then in some families, this is illuminated with a celestial body known as an angel. So when we look at this Christmas tradition versus where we are today, excuse me one second, and where this tradition has come from throughout history, I was able to locate an article at the GCU library and see if I can locate that. It was talking about Christmas celebrations and how they've changed slowly over time. This was written by Rich McKay, and it was actually written in 1996. And so when I look at this article, it talks about a lot about what Christmas traditions used to be. For some reason, the article did not stick, so I'm going to pause this video for 1 second.